much on the same page in terms of views of education, generally speaking, I think, you know. And what I wonder is, because again, it's a theory, and my kind of optimism dictates this, is that because you guys have both talked about what is essentially vulnerability there, you know, you've essentially talked about, you know, that you have to reveal more of yourself to connect in a situation where technology acts as a barrier, or can act as a barrier. You know, you have to kind of go the extra mile to make sure you're checking in on students, how are you feeling, and actually, as a teacher, revealing more of yourself as well. And what I'm wondering is, because I know that I'm sure that the three of us feel similarly, that we need to level things out a little bit more. You know, there can't be a power distance between student and teacher, if you want to use those words, you know. And what I'm wondering is that, do you find that this year has the potential to maybe become more of a leveler, you know, because you've got, for example, more sharing of the emotional side of an experience between teacher and learner, between learners themselves, across cultural divides, which might otherwise make things more difficult, and that perhaps there's more of a sense of a shared journey, rather than, you know, this distance between the two aspects of teaching and learning. And also that we are being encouraged to kind of reflect more and talk about our experiences and talk about how they shape our learning as well, that maybe we're becoming more aware of ourselves as learners. It's my hope that that's been a byproduct of this year. But from your experience, how does that play out? What do you think, Steve? Is that over optimistic?
No, I mean, I think it would be really disappointing if we emerged, you know, I hear people talk about the new normal or back to normal. I mean, I think what I'm hoping for is a better normal, that we emerge from this and learn from it. You know, that we have a better sense of what's really important, and that we have a better sense of how to put what's important into practice. And, you know, echoing what Alejandro just said in terms of community, you know, I know in my hometown of Glasgow in Scotland, many teachers in schools there really struggle because they didn't have the tools provided by the system to really adequately equip their pupils to keep learning during the first phase of lockdown. So they found incredibly inventive ways to get around that by creating WhatsApp groups, including parents in that, and basically communicating with their pupils and the parents of the pupils virtually every day. You know, not just in terms of here's your homework for today, but how are you doing? How are you getting on? What's happening? And parents being able to approach the teachers and having levels of dialogue with teachers that probably they have never had before. So I think there's a new level of humanity that's been injected into the process that perhaps, you know, wasn't there before because we were in our traditional roles. I am the teacher, I am on my stage, this is my theater, you will do exactly as I say. Moving to, well, actually, guys, this is really tough for all of us. And look, the internet's not working. So, you know, go and have a coffee and we'll try and fix it. And, you know, we are sharing a moment together that is tough. And we need to acknowledge that and share that with each other. So I would hope that when we emerge from this, the better normal will be that perhaps that power dynamic won't just snap back into shape, but that we will continue to embrace that humanity. You know, I am a human being first before I'm a teacher. And I think that's what makes people curious. I think we're curious about the human beings who teach us. And I think if we're open to that curiosity, then it can be a win-win.
Okay.
Fully agreed, Steve. I think it's a matter of rethinking those dynamics between professors and learners. But also you brought in a really interesting point, Mark, which is vulnerability. And I think in many scenarios, vulnerability is still being seen as a weakness. But we saw, and I truly hope that this is going to be a true game changer in 2021 onwards, that whenever we are focusing as a school and as a community, not only on the academic side, but also in terms of well-being, that's certainly going to change. Because okay, a teacher checks in and on the student. Fantastic. That's something I believe quite new in this occasion. Not that they weren't doing it before, but I think they went the extra mile and really digged in deeper for mental well-being. But at the same time, who checks in on the parent? Who checks in on the teacher? Who checks in on the admin stuff? And I think we go to a bigger level of the society where hopefully this circular economy makes everyone check in on each other and being vulnerable, not just pretending that everything is around is right and just having a mental breakdown all of a sudden, but actually saying, well, it's tough or this is happening. And that's when the meaningful conversations happen. And I think going back to my personal experience, I think that's when people share exactly what's truly happening in their lives, that pushes you to accompany them, to be there for them, and also to be there for you, saying, you know what, it's tough, but we can make it. And I need to make it for myself, but I need to make it for everyone else, because if one piece of the puzzle is out, everyone else needs to come as a community together and just raise that person who might be having some personal issues, some professional issues, and just need some support, because we need to say it out loud. These times are difficult no matter what. And whoever says that everything is fine, this is just not true. I don't believe anyone can actually say that out of the pandemic. And I think this is a big learning from us. It's, let's stop pretending, let's stop aiming at perfection, and let's start in 2021 onwards thinking that a better future or a better world, a better sense of community is being built by being authentic, by being original in whatever we think, and sharing those experiences without perceiving that whatever I say is going to be judged, is going to be taking in against myself. And I bring a very open question for the upcoming years. We'll see what happens, but I think this year will also change a bit how bullying is being perceived and what are the ways bullying happens on kids. I'm not saying that kids are no longer going to be bullied, because everyone would understand that it's difficult for everyone. But I do think that there's going to be a change in how kids behave with other kids, because we've seen it. I personally have a little sister. She's 9 years old. I've seen a dramatic change in her behavior and her friends' behavior. And I think it's really for a positive overall note. And we need to rethink on how is that going to impact the, again, going back to the upcoming generation. How are they going to behave in the workplace in a few years? How are they going to go through their education? And those are big questions. But I think if we focus on vulnerability, on helping each other, on making sure that we can all stand stronger from this, hopefully we can create a better society out of this struggle that we lived throughout this these few months.
Yeah, I love that, Alejandra. I think I would endorse all of that. And I just want to pick up one point you made about the embracing a circular nature. And I think education is profoundly circular rather than hierarchical, because as a teacher, I'm going in and I'm recycling my knowledge and my experience and giving that to the people in my classroom for them to then create something with it themselves. If I'm doing it properly, it's not just about them absorbing and repeating, it's about them creating something for themselves, whether in a business school, it's about creating a business or creating a career or something like that. But I think if we can move away from that hierarchical model of I am the teacher and you are the students, to one where we're sharing experience and knowledge with each other, and then waiting to be surprised by what the students create with that, and to learn from what they create, then I think that would be an amazing outcome of this year of very difficult time.
Yeah, this is the perfect time to have these conversations, isn't it? And it's I must admit there is a worry. It's like, have you ever been away on some kind of long journey? You've been away for several months or whatever, and you're sitting on that beach in Mexico saying, when I go back, I'm going to do this, this, and this differently. And then you get home and the pressure of the routine and the normality and that veneer of a structure around you, it just grinds down those pledges that you made. And it's very difficult to enact real change. And so there is a kind of, there's an opportunity in this space, but there's also a risk that, as you say, Steve, where people are talking about the new normal and going back to normal, but there is an opportunity to do things better. It seems like what we're talking about here is around the human side. So if education is truly circular, and if we are talking about vulnerability, what we're really looking at, it seems, as a kind of a human model based on empathy, really, which is something that we have to ask ourselves. If we've broken apart this system, if it's experienced this existential shock, and then we see that it's like Lord of the Flies, that you you see that the system is actually just a very thin veneer, and you look at what's actually underneath, what are we left with? And if it's not serving us, if you're having to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning to learn at a time that's not convenient for you, if you're having to engage in a situation in which you don't feel like you're being seen, or you're being heard, or you're visible, then the system itself is not serving.